What is up, heroes? This is Midnight Zero, and welcome back to the UCL match. I am, of course, coach of the Chicago Muse, and this week we're going up against another team. It's becoming a theme that I can't remember team names, but regardless, it's coached by Alex, who's a cool guy I've been chatting with in Skype, of course. And you can see his team over here, this little document here. He's got Mega Heracross, Kyurem B, and you can see the rest. He's got some really threatening Pokemon. So I've done a good bit of scouting, especially after last week's mishap. I was really thinking about it a lot, and there were definitely ways I could have and should have won that game, and I'm gonna do my best not to let something like that happen again. So here we are, week 8, and obviously you can see I brought my Mega Altaria. I guess I should go over first impressions first. Looking at his team, Mega Altaria does a lot of work. Mega Altaria and Heatran, I saw immediately did a lot of work to his team, between Return, Earthquake, and Stab Fire attacks. That puts in, it damages pretty much almost everything super effectively, minus a couple Pokemon. I also scouted to check out which Pokemon he's brought a lot. He loves Kyurem B, Mega Heracross, as expected, Slurpuff, Crobat, Diancie, and Magmortar. And then a tier below that is Bronzong, Charizard, and Dusclops. And the rest of them he's barely brought. The only Pokemon he hasn't brought ever though is Musharna. Looking at my team, I think he'll bring Kyurem B, of course, as well as Mega Heracross. I also think he'll bring Cloyster, which he's only brought once before, because the Shell Smash, after Shell Smashing, it'd be pretty good against my team. I also think he'll bring Bronzong, because that's a pretty solid counter to Mega Altaria, especially in that he has the choice to choose between Heat Proof and Levitate. Heat Proof reduces damage from fire attacks, Levitate makes you immune to ground attacks. So when my only coverage move is either Earthquake or Fire Blast, it kind of forces me to decide, but I'll get into that in a bit. So yeah, that's kind of my initial thoughts. So when building Altaria, first of all I was looking, and he's got a ton of physical attackers, but really there are a lot of Pokemon that are weak to Return. So I was figuring Dragon Dance, get to +1, looking specifically at my EVs. I'm EV'd just fast enough so that I outspeed Mega Heracross without a Dragon Dance, and I actually OHKO with Return, which is really nice. I also outspeed Slurpuff, Breloom, and Cloyster without a Dragon Dance. And after a Dragon Dance, I outspeed everything except for Scarf Kyurem, or other Scarf Mons. But so those are that's the reason the speed is there. As far as attack goes, I actually have max attack, and it wasn't just careless max attack. There are actually a lot of calcs that are related to being max attack. And so first of all, the most important one is, well, not necessarily the most important, but the most dependent on it being 252 attack EVs, is that I 2-hit KO Musharna after leftovers at +1. That is a bulky monster, and so I'm prepared to take that. I OHKO Mega Heracross, obviously. I have a 75% chance to OHKO Cloyster after Rocks, while at +1. I OHKO Slurpuff at +1. I 2-hit KO Crobat after Rocks at +1, and I think that's something he might bring as a counter to Mega Altaria as well. It's a strong poison type, I OHKO Zard after Rocks at +1. I 2-hit KO Claydol at +1. I OHKO Magmortar after Rocks at just neutral, and I OHKO Magmortar at +1, regardless of whether or not hazards are up. I 2-hit KO Dusclops after Rocks, and I OHKO Stoutland at +1. So, oh, and I have a 43% chance to OHKO Lunatone at +1 after Rocks. And those are all the real relevant calcs that I play, or at least that I might end up using Altaria for. So you can see this thing brings a ton of offensive presence to the team, and it's going to be really important. Now, you'll notice the HP and defense EVs look kind of weird. That's because the HP is just, it's so that I take minimal Stealth Rock damage while maximizing my HP EVs, and the rest goes into defense. So it might save me an extra % or so. And over time will be more effective, especially because I'll plan on, roosting off damage or Rocks damage on forced switches, with Roost. As far as the coverage goes, I figured Earthquake hits Magmortar pretty hard. Well, it definitely hits Magmortar hard. But amongst the Pokemon on his team, he's got Levitate with Claydol, he's got Levitate with Bronzong, he's got, flying types like Crobat and Charizard that he's brought. So there are a lot of Pokemon that don't get hit by it. But when looking at Fire Blast, the Pokemon it would hit hard, Return does just about as much damage at +1. Bronzong, +1 Return only does 2 or 3% less than a Fire Blast. So the little bit of extra coverage Earthquake provides is actually better off. So yeah, that's why Earthquake. pretty self-explanatory set. Moving on to the Heatran. First of all, we're rocking leftovers to restore a little HP as we force switches, because this is generally a pretty offensive set. It hits 275 speed to outspeed everything that Mega Altaria speeds. Obviously, it's not going to be getting +1, but Lava Plume almost OHKOs Heracross with this special attack investment. I only have just enough special attack to get some relevant KOs, and the rest goes into HP, because I'm going to need both Jirachi and Heatran to tank some Dragon-type hits, some strong Dragon-type hits from Kyurem B. And that thing is a threat. It's so much of a threat that, I've got these dedicated steel types that can, maybe take a hit and force a switch. So importantly, I OHKO Choice Scarf Kyurem after rocks, with Flash Cannon, of course. I do 98% minimum damage to Cloyster, which is really sweet, because that thing is scary. I OHKO maximum special defense Diancie with Flash Cannon, and he loves to just lead off with his Stealth Rocker. In all the games he's played in the past, he's only not led off with his Stealth Rocker once, and he led off with Mega Heracross. So, I'm going to first analyze what his Stealth Rocker is. It's usually Bronzong, Claydol, or Diancie. It's usually Diancie if he brings it. And if he doesn't lead off with Diancie and something else is Stealth Rocks, he's usually like an offensive Rock Polish set on Diancie. And so, yeah, Lava Plume plus Flash Candy gets so much coverage. I OHKO Slurpuff, I 2-8 KO Crobat after rocks, even if it's support set with recovery. I have a 98% chance to 2-8 KO Bronzong after rocks with Lava Plume, and Bronzong, he also likes to run Earthquake, so I am going to be wary of that. And Bronzong is a little bit of a problematic Pokemon. My speed, I already mentioned, and the rest just kind of got dumped into HP. Again, Toxic is there for bulky mons like Musharna and Dusclops that I might not necessarily be able to hit hard enough with Lava Plume or Flash Cannon, or to punish switches that I'm not sure what they'll be. And I also, because I'm forcing a lot of switches with Heatran, I plan on getting up Stealth Rock with this. So yeah, that's the mentality. His Bronzong, he loves to run Gyro Ball, or Iron Head, and Zen Headbutt, and Earthquake. He's also run Rocks on it. He's also run Protect on it. So, but beyond that, I don't know. But he likes to run coverage moves and not necessarily the standard Smogon sets. Moving on to the next Mon. Choice Scarf Jirachi. It's got just enough speed to outspeed Choice Scarf Kyurem B, and it has a guaranteed 2-hit KO with 124 attack EVs with Iron Head on Kyurem B. I'm running Iron Head and Zen Headbutt because Zen Headbutt hits a lot of his team hard. I pretty much 2-hit KO everything that doesn't resist Iron Head with Iron Head, and I 2-hit KO a few things with Zen Headbutt, and everything else gets 3-hit KO'd by Zen Headbutt. So adding any more attack wouldn't have really helped out that much. So I added more to HP, because with a lot of HP, I can actually tank a lot more hits from Kyurem, and just a lot of his mons in general, so I can switch in. U-Turn is there to give me some switch priority for some more switches, maybe get up rocks, passive damage, maybe give Altaria a chance to Dragon Dance. And Healing Wish is there. Maybe I need to heal up my Suicune. Maybe my Altaria needs to be healed up. Heatran, because like each Pokemon plays an important role. So yeah, that's here. Suicune, typical Crocoon. Nothing crazy. It's going to be taking hits from a whole bunch of his Pokemon. It checks Cloyster even after a Shell Smash. It checks Slurpuff. It checks Crobat. It checks Diancie. It checks Bronzong, which is really important. Bronzong can do like nothing to Suicune, and Suicune just can set up on it. One of the main things I've been worried about, though, is Fusion Bolt from Kyurem B. One of the only mons on my team that can take that is Salamence, and so I'm going to have to be careful about playing that. And before Kyurem B is gone, I'm just going to be firing off Scalds rather than trying to set up with Calm Minds and mess around with that, just to hopefully get burns, weaken things, get some passive residual damage. I also check Claydol and Charizard, even if it has Solar Beam. After +1, after I'm +1 special defense, Solar Beam doesn't 3-hit KO me. So, yeah, I can set up on that. Even in Sunny Day. What else this we can check? Magmortar, Musharna to an extent, in that I can Calm Mind up alongside it and eventually burn it if necessary, although they typically run Synchronized, but I also have Rest. And Dusclops, I deal with that as well. So this is going to be a very defensively important Pokemon, although it gets hammered by his OU Pokemon, so I'm going to have to be able to play around that pretty well. Moving on to the next Pokemon, I was looking, and a lot of his Psychic types are still really strong on my team, so I was considering bringing Liepard, but Liepard just doesn't pack enough power. So I ended up going with Hitmonlee, Life Orb, Hitmonlee, Limber, so I can't get paralyzed. Not that that's really a problem, but I don't like playing around with his Reckless boosted moves like High Jump Kick, so it just made sense to be Limber rather than Reckless. I've got Close Combat because that smacks everything hard. It OHKOs a couple mons, it 2-hit KOs most mons. Mach Punch does around 40 to 55% on both Kyurem B and around on Kyurem B and like 60 to 70% on Stoutland. So having a fast or a really strong fast Mach Punch could prove really helpful for like a late game clean sweep or just taking out some Pokemon. I also have Rapid Spin to get rid of hazards, though I don't think it'll be too much of a problem. If I lead correctly, I can just prevent him from getting up hazards altogether. But yeah, and then Knockoff is there for those bulky steel types, Bronzong, Musharna, etc. And you know, if he wants anything to lose its item, it's pretty sucky for that Pokemon. The only thing that really walls this is Mega Heracross, so I'll need to watch out for that if he predicts the Knockoff or whatnot. My speed is so that I just I just outspeed Slurpuff, Breloom, and Cloyster, and I outspeed everything obviously slower than that. Cloyster gets wrecked by Close Combat, Breloom gets destroyed by Close Combat, and I actually live a Technician boosted Mach Punch, worth noting. And Slurpuff takes a lot of damage from both Knockoff and Close Combat, so this thing can put in work, that's for sure, and I might need it late game to clean up against Kyurem B. Kyurem B goes down 50% of the time to Mach Punch plus Iron Head, which might be a relevant combination. And then lastly, I was still feeling weak to some of his physical attackers, so I decided to go with a bulky Salamence. We're running Leftovers to recover some HP, and Roost so that we can heal up even better. Intimidate to weaken all of his physical attackers. I really tank a lot of hits well and can roost off damage. To anticipated switches, I can Toxic to rack up passive damage and not really have to predict, or go for moves that might potentially miss like Fire Blast and Hydro Pump, which hit Magmortar hard, obviously, and Bronzong. And outside of that, they're just decent coverage moves. They generally do 30 to 40%, so Toxic, roosting up, stalling out a bit. This could be really important. It could also work as a Suicide Intimidate to give Altaria a setup opportunity, which could be really important as well. Especially if he's forced to switch out into something, and then I can get 2 Dragon Dances, and then I outspeed Scarf Kyurem even, which he likes to run. He's run Life Orb before, but he almost always runs Scarf. My speed EVs are so that I just barely outspeed Magmortar, and I can hit that hard with a Hydro Pump before it can hit me with maybe HP Ice if it's Life Orb or AV, which he loves to run AV Magmortar. What else? My HP is a very specific number. It's kind of like a Stealth Rock number in addition to being a Leftovers number. So to maximize Leftovers recovery while minimizing your investment in HP, you want to have a multiple of 16. And to maximize health while minimizing Stealth Rock damage, you want to be a multiple of 4 plus 3. So 387 is that number, because I'm essentially taking 10 points of HP away, or 7 points of HP away by not investing fully all my EVs in there. But with my Leftovers, I'll eventually make that up, and also I'll take 1 or 2% less damage from physical attacks, and on a Pokemon with 387 health, that amounts to about 6 or 7, depending on, or around 6 HP. So yeah, that's why it's so oddly specific. My goal in team building this time around was being able to play safe. I know that he's not a super competitive player, and in watching his replays, he makes a lot of erratic plays sometimes. So I'm not going to be trying to read too far into his mind and what he's going to do, and just a lot of times go for the safe moves. So I've got Pokemon with Knockoff, Pokemon with Iron Head and U-Turn, Lava Plume for burn chances, Scald for burn chances, a Setup Mon and Dragon Dance Altaria, Toxic, so that whatever he switches in is going to be damaged regardless, so that I can make these safe plays and not be punished too hard by it. So let's hope we can redeem ourselves after last week, after playing pretty poorly, and I hope you guys are looking forward to this battle. But until then, this has been Midnight Zero, and this mission is complete.